and welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My name is Lisa Curcio. This is a YouTube live streaming event. Today is Wednesday, April 13th, and the year is 2022. Whether this is your first time visiting my channel or you are back to watch again, I am thrilled that you're here. It's such a privilege to have you with me. Now tonight I have a beautiful spring themed card, but it can be used for everything. And you're gonna love the pivot easel to this. Now I've got lots of tips for you so that you can recreate this very easily at home. And I've got some great ideas for you on how to upstage this card just a little bit. And you're gonna wanna hang with me to the end because I've got 6 other cards to share with you. All of those are part of this month's online card class. Now, before we get started, I have a couple housekeeping items I would like to go over with you. The first is we would love to chat with you. So make sure that you sign into your Gmail address, which gets you into YouTube. That's a YouTube requirement, not something on me, so that you can leave a comment if you're watching the replay or chat right along with us. The other thing I want to make sure you know about is the free project sheet. I've got an extensive project sheet for you tonight that's going to include multiple pictures of the card I'm going to demonstrate. It also includes all the cutting dimensions and all the supplies, which makes it really easy for you to recreate at home. That will be down below the video title when tonight's live stream is over. And then finally, I would love to introduce you to Gina Curcio Hawley. You'll see Gina's name here in blue with a little wrench next to it. Gina is going to be moderating during tonight's live stream. So if you're watching the replay, you can catch the live chat replay if you'd like. Gina is here to answer your questions and provide links because it's impossible for me to keep up. You may notice Gina's surname is also the same as mine. She is my daughter and an avid stamper. So she is here to be able to help you. I think we're ready. Let's head over to the stamp table. I'm going to start with my trimmer, and I love this. If you've watched my videos before, you know why I'm a big fan. It includes both the cutting and the scoring blades. They navigate up and down out of the way, which means you can keep them on the track at the same time. Love the clear cutting guide. That comes in super handy. And of course, there's a nice extended arm here. So if you want to do more scrapbooking or you need to cut bigger pieces of paper, we've got you covered. Now the card base for tonight is going to be 4 1/4 by 11. Now don't fret trying to write everything down because I've got this all for you in the project sheet. So some of the measurements I'm not going to go over with just to make this a little bit more viewing pleasure. I'm going to start by doing 2 simple score lines. The first one is going to be at 2 3/4 inches. There's a nice straight ledge here at the top. I love that because I can't do anything straight. So that's going to make sure that things are straight. Also, there's one at the bottom. So I'm going to close that and we're going to score at 2 3/4. Now I'm going to move over to 5 1/2 inches, sliding against that straight edge here at the top, and then we'll score. That's it. Nice and simple. Now this card, when you look at it from a photo standpoint, you might think, eek, there's no way. But I've got some really easy ways for you to make this. It's not difficult. Obviously, this is the halfway point, so let's go ahead and fold up on that. And I'm going to use my bone folder for that nice crisp edge. There is also another crease mark here. Do you see it? So let's go ahead and let's go over that with the bone folder as well. I'm a big fan of the bone folder whenever you have fun folds. It makes them stand up so much better. I've got another piece of that same color cardstock, which happens to be a Coastal Cabana. It's one of my favorites. Such a happy color. Now, before we go on to the next step, if you're going to use designer series paper, this is when it needs to be added. So I've got a piece here from the Heart and Home Designer Series paper package. And before the live stream, I checked and this paper is available and it's gorgeous because it's double-sided, which means you have lots of options. Stampin' Up! Does a great job with their designer series papers so that you can really expound on your purchase. One side has a theme, the other side is generic, so you can use it all year round. Believe it or not, we're going to use that wood grain tonight. So I'm going to add adhesive to my back side. So I've got my Stampin' Seal Plus here, and it's very, very strong. So I'm going to work closely around my outside edges. And because we're going to be doing some die cutting for this card, I am actually going to make sure, see, I'm pressing too hard. I've had like a Monday on a Wednesday. I'm going to add an X right here down the center because I want to make sure that when I create my hole that this is not going to lift, okay? Let's add this here to the card front. and I'm looking to leave a border of that cardstock showing all the way around. All right, and that looks pretty good. Now, I don't typically bring in the die cutting machine, but I am tonight because you need to learn how to do this. So I have my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine here. Now, it comes automatically with all the plates that you're going to need. So this is the basic platform, which is labeled number 1. One of the reasons I love this die cutting and embossing machine is because it's lickety easy to use even if you're brand new. All the instructions are printed right on the platforms. You can't even lose them. The next is platform number 2, but I got a confession to make. Do you see how it's starting to bow just a little bit? Because this is a workhorse here in the studio. So I found that this had a little bit of bowing to it. So guess what I did? I turned it upside down. Works just as well. And it's working its way out. It's working great this way. Now next I have my clear cutting mats. And yours probably look like mine. Look how well loved those are. Nice and etched. That's going to go here. Remember our cardstock and designer series paper? Well, that is here. Let me scoot that up just a little bit. And we're going to have to use a die to create an opening on this. And we're going to have to do die cutting in various formats tonight. Super simple. I am using one die for all of it. And that's important. You want to use the same shape on all the layers we're going to create. I just checked before the live stream and this die set is still available and it's on sale. I'm going to tell you right now, even if the other pieces are not your thing, you want all these cascading sizes of all these labels. It is fantastic. And wait till you see how I use it on those other 6 cards that I'm going to share with you. Now I pulled out the largest one of this die here, and I'm going to center this right here visually in the middle of the designer paper and the cardstock. The easiest way for me is just to kind of look here and here to see if the space is about equal, and here and here. I'm not going to be breaking out my ruler because that's too much work. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my Post-it note labeling and cover-up tape to anchor that die down so it does not shift. Now I get tons and tons of emails about this, so I want to share it with you. This is the Post-it note labeling and cover-up tape. It works like a champ, and not only are you going to be able to use it once, but multiple times. It comes in a dispenser, which makes it really easy to use. And I'll pull my machine back, but I actually keep extra pieces right here on the handle so that I can use them with my dies repeatedly. You're going to be able to find this linked for you on my website under the shop tab and then craft room favorites. I have quite a few things there that I love here in the studio that I know that you like too. So I went ahead and I put those links there for you for your convenience. All right, so back here to the die cutting. Now that this is anchored in place, I don't have to worry about that shifting. You're going to love this tape. That other clear mat's going to go over the top to protect your die, and then we're going to crank it through. Your mats will often make all kinds of horrible creaking sounds. Don't let that worry you, okay? That's normal. Now, I'm going to keep that machine here because we are actually going to use it again, but I want to show you how amazing this works. Trick for you. Because we're going through designer paper and cardstock, the tension in every die cutting machine is a little bit different. So you're going to want to check your die before you disassemble it, which is another reason why I love the tape. Turn it upside down. You should be able to see that it's die cut all the way through. If it's not, it's a great time to shift the position just a little bit and run it through your machine again. The Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is a champ. I never have any trouble. So what I'm going to do now is I'm very carefully going to take off that tape because, you know, I want to be able to reuse that. That's going right here on the handle of my machine. And then this piece I can actually save and use for another card. I've got a label all ready to go. This is going to be very important to the pivot for our card. So I'm going to set this aside for right now. Now you might recall this. This was the base of the card, and there's that extra score line. This is the center or the middle of my fold. You're going to need to open up the card base because if you don't, it's going to want to cut through both pieces. So with the card base open, I'm going to put the solid piece right through the machine. This now is the front of the card. So this is the center crease, and this is that other 2 3/4 inch layer here. You're going to take that exact same die and we're going to make another hole. But guess what? They have to mimic each other. So I'm going to take this first piece and I'm going to line these up. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give that a little bit of a tap here on my platform to make sure that they are flush and as even as possible. If you feel comfortable, you could take a piece of tape And then you can tape these together here at the top so that they don't slip on you. And then we're gonna die cut this again. Now, some of you are asking me, I'm sure, why wouldn't you just do that all at one time? Great question. Die cutting machines don't like to die cut through multiple layers of decent cardstock. That means that the cardstock has a nice thickness and weight to it. So I recommend one layer and then the other. This now has an opening here, and when you place your exact die right over it, you can feel kind of where it sits. It fits right inside that notch. And then I'm gonna anchor it again. So I'm gonna add my tape here and here. Again, I don't have to worry about slippage. Here comes my die cutting plate. I'm gonna lay that right over the top, and then I'm gonna crank this through. This is the amazing part of this machine. Not only can I emboss with it, I can die cut with it. All right, so let me pick this up and move this out of the way. And then I've got here my machine. So let's go ahead and take these pieces apart and let's take a look at how this came out. So once again, I'm gonna look, yep, it's all nice and die cut. I am going to carefully release that tape because I wanna save these. You know I love to reuse these. Now sometimes, I've gotten an email from some of you that have said to me, well, that tape sometimes leaves a sticky spot on my cardstock. And if that happens, I'm gonna talk to you about that. So let me put this on my machine real quick. This piece right here, because it was at the crease, it's being a little persnickety because it's a new piece of tape. So I'm just gonna use that paper piercing tool attachment here and just lift that off. Okay, so now we've got two pieces. This you can toss or use for another card, but let's talk about that sticky spot. This is another product that is in my craft room favorites, and it's an adhesive remover. The best few dollars you will ever spend. All you have to do if you have that sticky spot or any adhesive is pull it in one direction, and it's going to pull up all that adhesive from your cardstock. No more taking your finger and hoping it doesn't turn black. This is amazing. I like to pull in one direction, so obviously that doesn't happen. You don't crinkle up your paper. All right, again, in my craft room favorites under the shop button. These are the pieces that we're going to need. And to make the pivot, we're going to have to do a little bit of assembly. But we're also going to need this image one more time for the inside of the card. Now, I just took white cardstock and I did that ahead of time. I didn't think it was important for me to demonstrate that since we've already seen it. But I do want to talk you through what we're going to do with this piece because it's going to be critical to this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring that over to here and we're going to do some stamping. So I am going to start with some Granny Apple Green ink pad. I've got that here. And let me show you what bundle I am using. This is the Flowering Rain Boots. I have fallen in love with this and the dies. Not only do you not have to fussy cut, it is fantastic for any time of the year and any occasion because I love to garden. That's one of my favorite pastimes besides stamping. But I love the distinctive look of these stamps, which means they're going to look more like photographed images than stamped images. And because there's coordinating dies, we don't have to do any fussy work. So I am going to start with some greenery. So I've got the greenery from that stamp set here, and I am quickly going to pull out a piece of scratch paper. Bear with me here. These little small grid sheets are like my best friend. I love those, especially when I'm in a tight area like I am now or when I'm stamping with friends. That's going to keep my work surface clean so that's not too distracting for you. But what I want to do is I want to actually ink this, but I don't want it too strong. So I'm going to ink it up and I'm going to stamp off to make it lighter. And now what I'm going to do is just line this up and I'm going to gravitate this here to the bottom and I am going to stamp, which is going to give us this. I'm going to clean that off, take that off camera real quick. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But now I want to add some flowers to the top. Now the stamp set actually has several flowers. It has the tulips and what I'm calling the blossoms, perhaps, or geraniums, daisies, whatever it suits you. But I'm going to use the polished pink for this. And again, because this is going to end up being the inside of the card because it's going to pivot, I am going to do some stamping off with those tulips. So I'm going to ink it up. I am not going to stamp over this one in case that's wet. That will actually transfer some color. And then I'm going to do my very best not to get my head in your camera view because at my age, we got to be close. And I'm just going to line those up and we are going to stamp. Okay, pretty, isn't it? All right, now we're going to come back to this color as well. But here at the top, I decided I was going to put my greeting there. So I'm going to use Memento Black ink. You could use Basic Gray to help designer papers stand out. Use those color formats. I let my designer series paper always dictate what colors I'm going to use. And then this says, our friendship is naturally beautiful. And that's going to go right here at the top. Pretty, huh? The other thing I did, if you'll notice, is I always stamp off my excess ink before I clean it on my chamois or my Stampin' Scrub. And that's a great tip for you too, because if you're like me and you absolutely hate to leave your stamping spot to rinse that out when it gets dirty, this helps reduce that color pigmentation on your scrub. All right, so we've got this nice and pretty, but now we're gonna actually do a little bit more stamping. So I'm grabbing some scrap cardstock right now, and this is just regular basic white cardstock. They wanted to stick together, sorry. And let's stamp some images on here. I told you we're going to go back to those ink pads, and I'm also going to use the Coastal Cabana. Now, this is the beauty of Stampin' Up! Products, is the color coordination, remember? So we had the cardstock and the ink pad that matches. We have designer paper, ribbons, embellishments, you name it, everything color coordinates. There's no guesswork. I am going to use this watering can. Now, oftentimes with a large photopolymer stamp, some of you have told me you have trouble getting a really good image. And if you're like me and you have arthritis in your hands and it's difficult to push, I want to give you another tip. This product is called the Pierce Mat, and you can see the density of the foam here. So I can place that right underneath my cardstock, and that's going to give this a little bit more oomph from the bottom up when I'm pushing. I love it, because you only need it once and you're good to go. So I'm going to ink this up in the Coastal Cabana ink. Again, that's coordinating, and I'm going to stamp that here. Lots of firm, even pressure. You want to trace out your design, and there we go. We've got a beautiful image. All right, now I'm going to switch over to some flowers, and this time I decided to change things up a bit, and I'm bringing in those blossoms, and you're going to notice too, I'm not stamping off. I'm not stamping off, which means I'm using it full strength. This is that same polished pink, and I'm going to stamp this up here. Because there are separate ink or dies for every single one of these, I can die cut them all at once. Now I want to teach you something really cool about the stamp set that I figured out, and another way for you to use the leaves that are in here. So again, this is the Granny Apple Green, full strength, and we're going to go here. All right, so now we have all of our pieces. I'm going to close up that ink pad because this is always a recipe for disaster here in the studio if it's open. I am not going to do this on camera since you've already seen me use the dies, but I will tell you that when I go to use the coordinating dies on here, I also use the tape so that the die is anchored down and it's good to go. So I don't have to worry about any wiggling, and I can pass all this through my die cutting machine at one time. It's a great way to save some work. All right, so I'm going to push that off to the side for right now because, as I mentioned, I had those already done. Now let me talk to you about this image. I wanted it inside the watering can, but there is no way this is really going to fit well. And I really didn't want the stalks because you're going to notice that this doesn't line up perfectly. And although that probably is fine, I decided I just needed some greenery. So let me show you what I did. I took my scissors and I literally cut away what I didn't want. Now, because it's already die cut, it is quite easy. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come around here and I'm looking to concentrate just on the leaves. So I'm cutting away the portions I don't want. The outline of the die has already done the majority of the work. I'm just making the image a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller, just so I end up with the leaves. And you're going to see here how these are actually separated. You can use those independently, which is another great way to expound on this die and these stamps. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image now, and I actually want to put this in the watering can, but I want it to appear as greenery instead of leaves. So I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet, and I absolutely love this product because adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it, which just means I'm going to keep this sticky free. I have lots of these here in the studio. They are fantastic. I am going to start by taking this and attaching it here where I want my greenery. So I'm going to flip this over, and actually I'm going to add my adhesive here this time near the bottom. This is another reason I love the silicone craft sheet. Do you see how my adhesive comes out in tabs? This would stick to my paper, but I'm able to actually take this and wrap it on top of itself. Let's make sure my flowers are going in the right direction. And I can add some greenery to the back of that bouquet now to make it look more realistic. What I want to do next is I want to put these together. So I'm going to add a little adhesive here to the top of my watering can. Again, using my Stampin' Seal Plus. Average can kind of come down here like this and kind of curl it so nothing gets wasted, nice and sticky. And then this is going to go here. And this is going to make it look like it's actually potted or coming out of the watering can. So cute. Now, let's start by putting this together because it's almost finished. We're going to come back to these two pieces. Do recall that there is a crease here and that we have a separate panel. You'll also recall that these are mirrored, so they're identical. So for this to pivot, these two pieces have to move. So let me show you what we're going to do. Coming back to that silicone craft sheet, we are going to add adhesive only from that score line down. And I've been struggling with my Stampin' Seal Plus today because I've been pushing too hard. The one thing I've learned about this dispenser is it doesn't take muscle strength like some of the other ones that I had used over the years. And I absolutely love it because it's super strong. So there's my crease, nothing above it. I am going to take this piece now, and what I'm looking to do is not only align the bottoms and the sides, but it's important that we have a mirrored image of the whole from the front to the back, because that is where this easel card is going to pivot. So I am looking, and I'm lining it up the very best that I can, and once I'm happy with it, we're going to push that in place. Now, we are going to close the card. I'm going to go back over this with my bone folder. I'm going to make it a little bit stronger. And let's talk about this piece next. This was the one that we die cut, and then we're going to put it through here. Very, very important that you work with dimensionals because it's going to create an easel for this card. Now I'm going to flip that upside down, and I'm going to be using my dimensionals. Love these pre-cut pieces of foam tape. I'm using my Take Your Pick tool. It has the putty tip, which is great for picking up those small pieces of paper or sequins. And I love that paper piercing tool attachment because it's kind of like my third hand. I am very careful to balance this. I know that the vast majority of my cards are going to go through the mail, and I know that the mail meter has rollers in it. So if it's not balanced, portions without these will sag. This is also going to help those arthritic hands of mine remove those paper backings. Kind of use it like a little pick. And that just helps me remove those backings. And it kind of wrangles all those pieces together. This now is going to go through the front of the card. Now, I've done this before wrong. Make sure that the crease is at the top. You're going to want to hold the card flat, and you're going to work right through the window. You are not going to attempt to trace it and do it any other way, because if you happen to be off by a smidgen, it does make a difference. This is going to go here. Now let's talk about this. This, as you will recall, is going to swivel and pivot in just a moment. So it's very important that wherever we put this piece, that the dimensionals and the pieces that we're using are not going to show from here, correct? All right, so there's a couple things that you can do, and I'm going to teach you the easiest way. And if you've been stamping for a long time and you're proficient with this, you obviously can tweak that. I know that my watering can is going to come near my designer series paper, and I want it about here. So I'm going to end up having a 3D image once this is open. I am going to open up the card, and I'm going to use my very favorite pencil of all time. This is also in my craft room favorites. You may think it's nothing special, but it is the softest lead ever, and the eraser is a champ. It leaves no residue behind. Everything within the pencil line here over is going to be hidden in this area. Here, this way, is not. So that's an indication of where you should not be putting dimensionals because they will show from the inside of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place these here, and I'm going to work with another one here. And again, I told you I was very careful about balancing. Now I'm going to take that eraser, just in case I'm a little bit off when I go ahead and I put this together. I want to make sure that this doesn't show. We're just going to work on that here. Love these. These are my craft room favorites for you as well. The lead is fantastic. You will love it. You'll never use another pencil. Again, you can't see the line now that it's been erased. And then we're going to remove those paper backings so that exposes the sticky side. Because the pencil line is gone, I want you to put your fingers here to have an indication of where this is going to fall. And if we need to do a little card surgery, we can always do that. Remember, we're working near the bottom. The circumference has to stay within the card. Very, very important. And before I go too crazy, I'm going to give this a quick cursory look, and it looks good. And then I'm going to push this in place. Now, my last thing is to add gems, and wait till I show you how this pivots. These iridescent rhinestones are quickly becoming my favorites. Absolutely beautiful because they're going to pick up just about anything. So oftentimes we like to use pearls and rhinestones because they're so pretty, right? But these iridescent ones have really added a lot of bling to my projects, and they're super easy to use because they have glue dots already on the back. And I love that little bit of pizzazz to my card without taking away from the images itself. That little bit of texture is always fun to touch as well. Now that product right here is being carried over into the new catalog. You don't have to worry about it going away. Okay, are you ready? Now don't forget, I've got 6 more cards for you. So not only does this pivot, do you see how it's free here? It is also an easel card, which means the card is going to be beautifully displayed by whoever gets it. It's intuitive on how it's going to go because of the hinge that's here. So when the card comes up, it's going to tuck right behind here. And this is why you need to use dimensionals. If this is flat, there's no place for the easel to rest. Really simple. And the great news is this can be any shape and any size, and you can decorate it however you want. You can keep this extremely simple by making this your focal point and having nothing in the front, or just a greeting and using beautiful paper. Okay, so I promised you 6 more cards, and let me pull those out now. They are all using the exact same bundle of products I just shared with you called Flowering Rain Boots. So this bundle comes with the stamps and the dies, and you're going to want to buy it as a bundle because you get a 10% savings. If you buy them individually, that is available, but it's just a tad more money. Now, all the cards I'm going to share with you now are all part of this month's online card class, one of my very favorite things I do every single month. These cards are only available for a 4-day ordering period. You will receive a full PDF tutorial that's 18 pages long. There are 2 templates in there as well to help you with the fun folds. 6 cards altogether. 3 are fun folds, 3 are regular card layouts. You can use whatever you want. Now, if you want your cards to look exactly like mine, I have a complete list of all the supplies over on my website under Shop Online Card Class. Isn't this beautiful? So fun. And I'm going to teach you fun ways for you to use the stamps and the dies in a really different way. So there's one card. So that's fun fold number 1. This is fun fold number 2. Look at this. Black and red are always my favorite combination. So there is another fun fold here. The other thing I want you to know is, in addition to the 18-page PDF tutorial with this month's online card class, you're going to get a full-length video. The great news is you can stop and start and stamp at your own pace. You don't have to stamp faster than anyone else or slower than anyone else. Do it at your pace. And if you want to make one card today and another one tomorrow, you absolutely can. This one I think is my favorite. Look at those dies. Again, these dies are Hippo and Friends. Get them while they're on sale. They are gone on May 2nd. That's the last day, only while supplies last until that day. Here we go. This is a fun fold. And then this one opens up like so. Oh, isn't that fun? A great way to use your dies and a great way to learn some new card layouts. So these are the 3 fun folds that are included. Now there's 3 other cards as well for a total of 6. Lots of fun ideas for you. Going to give you lots of tips in the video, just as if like you were here with me live. I think this is one of my other favorites. As I mentioned to you, I love to garden. I love my flowers, but we've got some grass here and we've got some potting, and I've got all kinds of tips for you. Again, the Hippo and Friends dies were used for this one. And then here is my last one. Really, really pretty. Now, it's very, very important that you use my monthly card class host code when you place your order. Otherwise, I have absolutely no way of knowing. A $50 product order before tax and shipping is all that's required using that host code in order to get the full-length video and the 18-page PDF tutorial. And I would absolutely love to include you. Which one of those cards is your favorite? Leave me a comment now, and let me give you a few more details about the online card class. It is only available for a 4-day ordering period. It starts today, Wednesday the 13th of April, and it goes through Saturday, which is the 16th of April. You must use the card class host code. Otherwise, I got no way of knowing you want the card class. There is, however, one exception. Perhaps your order is very, very large, $150 in product or more. In that case, don't use the host code simply because Stampin' Up! Is going to provide you with additional free product as rewards. But if it's intended for card class, all you have to do is contact me through my website and say, hey, Lisa, the order I just placed is for card class, and I will be sure that you receive the video and the PDF tutorial. Now, I know that a lot of you often say to me, can we just get the PDF tutorial? And the question is yes. Perhaps you're a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Perhaps you don't want to actually watch the video. You just want the written instructions. So the PDF tutorial is available on its own without the video. I charge $1 per page. So that's $18 for that full-length PDF tutorial. There are multiple pictures of every card. They are in color, step-by-step instructions, cutting dimensions, and all the supplies. Plus, I put 2 templates in that tutorial for you so that it's easy for you to make these fun fold cards. Now, again, you can get all the information over on my website at lisasstampstudio.com under the Shop tab. And while you're there, do me a favor, scroll all the way down and click subscribe. That will sign you up for my free weekly e-newsletter, and you're going to want it because I provide a PDF tutorial every Thursday by email. It's no frills. That's not shared on any of my other platforms. You'll find lots of information over on my website and a ton more inspiration. If you have not subscribed to my channel before, I would encourage you to do so. Hit the subscribe button and then the bell icon that's next to it and the word all. And then guess what? YouTube is going to send you reminders when I'm live because you're not going to want to miss Monday. I will be back with you on Monday. Looking at the date, it's April 18th at 8 p.m. because I have something really special for you. It's very different than what I normally do, but you are not going to want to miss it. So mark your calendar and invite your crafty friends to join us. Gina, thank you so much for moderating tonight, and thank you all for being here. I look forward to having you join me on Monday. Have a great night.